Hello and welcome back to more TEW9. We're here on the 11th of January, as I'm recording this on the 11th of June. Just a little bit behind the actual time, but regardless, we start off with just a quick opening heater match. Shibata and Joe defeat the Outrunners pretty quickly. Don Callis was on commentary, and he gets off with Kinosuke Takeshita. I think I had Takeshita at rings. Well, I marked him as ringside, but he's kind of just on the commentary desk with Callis, just kind of sitting beside him and not saying too much. But Callis goes up to the center of the stage. He calls out Shibata as well as Joe on the behalf of Takeshita, and loudly and boldly proclaiming Shibata should be honored to be directly challenged by a champion. And Joe, while very obviously annoyed at the fact that Callis is yapping on, he tells him to shut the fuck up. And it'll actually be him saying that, but obviously censored for TV. But before Joe can say anything more, Callis is like, no, what, you're the one who, no, you should shut up now. He says like, alright, that's cool. I have my things that I'm going to do. Brian Cage, Trent Beretta, they jump him, Shibata and Joe in the ring. And Callis then gives a warning to all the AEW audience, both in the ring, in the AEW audience, as well as the people in the back, that what he does is always going unseen. The invisible hand is always going to do more. And Don Callis' family is even further spread than anyone knows or expects. Don Callis invented a new catchphrase. Once I get to writing my promos again, because if you couldn't tell from the fact that I am 5 months behind, I have not gotten quite the confidence in order to write the actual promos myself. So, whatever. Mariah May is then seen in a Hollywood-style backlot, having just finished up a paparazzi photo shoot. As she starts walking towards the camera, she is approached by MM. I don't know if that's how to pronounce it. Who quickly starts sucking up to her and wanting to have the women's champ share in the secrets of becoming so glamorous with them. Where I was like, you know what? Sure, I'll have you by my side, kind of just, not necessarily as bodyguards, but more so as just suck-ups, lackeys, people to constantly praise her. And they're always basking in the glow and the glory of herself. But her mood quickly sours when Konami makes her appearance, alongside MJF and Alex Kane. Alex Kane being the new bodyguard. I think I meant to have him in one of the shows, but he hadn't quite debuted yet. I think I had Abrahantes in there on accident. Regardless. MJF says that as part of his desire to make AEW be as good as it used to be, there's more that needs to be done than just going around and doing photo shoots. Mariah's a great champion, she's a homegrown star, and she certainly draws eyes. The wit and guile of MJF is an even stronger boon, so his own hired gun, Konami, a star over in Japan, more than Mariah May had ever done, of course. She should be the one taking the belt away from these glamour shots, instead giving out strikes in the ring. And Mariah's like, alright, cool. I don't know why you're talking about the women's division when you can't even make your own hair look right. And they are enjoying this greatly. MJF kind of seething, and he says, "Alright, prove yourself right now. Have a match with Konami next week." And where I was like, "Fuck no! Why would I do that?" And MJF he's kind of acting like a bit of a spoiled child, which kind of have that in there. There is still a little bit going on with MJF. He's trying to have everything go his way, but not exactly doing the best because he's real rattled about everything. And Konami stays a little bit behind. Shen Lavangi and Tony Storm defeat Serena Deeb and Zeta Steel. Obviously, Tony Storm with the performance of the match, although Serena Deeb, for being so much less popular, very good rating. Afterwards, Tony celebrates her first career win, talking about how she hopes to have a great career in the future. She's looking forward to when she has the chance to win either or both of the TBS and Women's World titles. And Serena Deeb is just like, what the fuck are you doing? The video plays of a meeting between AEW's top brass and some quote-unquote potential sponsors. Of course, it's just a bunch of local talents, having just finished up. As these top people are about to leave, led by head of talent relations Christopher Daniels, the Elite walk in. We'd like to talk about how it's insulting that they, as EVPs, they weren't even invited to this meeting. I mean, they're corporates they're part of that corporate ladder in the business. And Daniel's like, you guys have your other duties as EVPs, and at least duties that you should be doing, and the implication that they're not doing work sets off the Bucks, and Jack Perry, he just punches Daniels in the gut, and the Bucks then announce that they, obviously, because they aren't stupid, knew what the meeting was about. Instead of whatever crappy deal the other staff members put out, they have their own deal in place, and of course they have probably just like a stack of papers that is supposedly whatever deal they have. And one of these so-called sponsors like, you can't just come in here with a new proposal. We've been talking about this for hours at this point. And Okada, dressed to the nines, big rainmaker right to that executive guy. And that kind of startles everyone else in the room. Nicholas takes a seat at the head of the table and says, we'll really get started on a deal it'll help AEW out, because we're the people who are making the business as good as are. We're the reason that AEW exists and ever was popular. So anything that Tony Khan's been doing, clearly that's just not helping out. One thing I did notice that is something I'm going to have to definitely work on. I do have a lot of AEW sucks, here's how we gotta fix it. But that's kind of a lot of the stories that have been going on in AEW recently. And even at the time of at the beginning of the year, still a lot of the same sort of story. It's something I will eventually move on from, but right now, since you just have so many factions that are kind of in that same mindset of what AEW is doing right now is not good, we need to fix it, because AEW is in a fucking state. But yeah, the Bucks trying to take control of things for themselves. After this real quick match, Moxley just defeats Mike Bailey. Mike Bailey showing up. He is part of the roster. Well, handshake deal is part of the roster. He's a solid hand. Maybe he'll do something actually in the future, but whatever. Good chemistry between them, though. That is something that I will keep in mind for the future. I don't think that'll be relevant. It's not a title match, because obviously it's not. After the match, that was, again, very obvious that it was Mox just toying with Mike Bailey. The barely tired champ gets a mic from Marina Shafir, and he starts to talk. Is that bullshit like that, like what they just saw in the previous segment? Saw what the Elite do is the reason AEW is in, such a state. The leadership is spineless, and when so-called executives are too busy squabbling over each other to pay attention to what's really in the ring as the real product, it just causes the already existing problems in AEW to get worse and worse. That wound, it festers, or something of the sort. Says that he's heard the self-centered people in the back saying that he's holding the title hostage. And, he can't really deny it too much, because he's just doing to the title what everyone else has done to the company. He knows that AEW's fallen on harder times, so, bring in these old people from the past, from a bygone age. Adam Copeland, Christian Cage, Chris Jericho, Bryan Danielson. All these people as a desperate bid to stay relevant. And since he's the reason that AEW ever had any relevance, they don't deserve to have any better until they can prove that they can do anything better, until they can prove that they can have more than just relying on these nostalgia acts. Tosses the mic down in disgust before storming off, leaving commentary flabbergasted. Their guests have been thoroughly flabbered. Jay White is then seen with the rest of Bullet Club Gold in the locker room backstage. I forgot to put someone on. Whatever, it's fine. Shaking his head at Mox's declaration, says that the Bullet Club have always been at the forefront of relevance in pro wrestling since they were founded, and he's definitely up for the challenge of doing just that. The Guns agree with this, saying that if there's anyone who can take control of bringing something out from the mud, it's them, because they're the Bullet Club. Juice, however, brings up that LFI are still a thorn on their side, and Jay's like, yeah, you're not wrong. But once his plans for the Bullet Club in America fully come to fruition, once he fully starts to get a hold in America as he did in Japan, LFI will not stand a chance against them. Athena has a match with Xia Brookside. I probably should have made this match shorter. Realistically, Billie Starkz did come in and attack, but it wasn't like necessary for the win because Athena was still very solidly, she had the win in her, in her bag. But Billie Starkz, she showed up, tagged Xia Brookside during a distraction, and ENV, they make their way out in order to argue with the ref, like, hey, there was very obvious cheating going on. But Billie Starkz, she, instead of, going up the ramp, instead of going, through any way that would make her very visible, hop in from the crowd, do her attack, hop out. So Athena, presumably, at least the plan is she didn't deny this help. I beat her all by myself, and I can still beat anyone else in ENV by myself, or something of the sort. Jeff Jarrett is then seen in the back with heat, and he's visibly frustrated. He says that all the work that he's done for AEW keeps going further and further down because people are just getting in his way. Eventually, he does want to retire. He still thinks he has to lace up the boots in order to keep Law as the sheriff of AEW, and as someone in such a high position. Knock on the door introduces Stokely Hathaway to the executive office, feels that he doesn't like seeing Jarrett so down on his luck, and as an agent to some of the top former free agents in pro wrestling, he's offering his services as a protection, quote-unquote. Introduces Bishop Dyer and Martina Vale as his top clients, says that while there's a lot of different agents and clients in AEW, Stoke gives the satisfaction guaranteed seal of Stokely approval. Jarrett's like, fuck it, why not? Takes him up on the offer and asks him to help keep things in line for next week as much as he can. Obviously, Bishop Dyer, Baron Corbin, he's not going to be someone who will ever have, like, anything massive. He's going to be a solid hand. Probably just mostly a good guy to feed to younger people. And then Martina Vale, Indy Hartwell, she actually is someone who might potentially do something. I do find her she is very good in the, well, not very good in the ring, but she is very solid in the ring. I'm not sure if I would give her a title shot, or title run at least. Maybe a title shot here or there, but regardless, not too much with that. Adam Page beats Kota Ibushi in 17 minutes, and Will Ospreay was on commentary for this, at least for a little bit. He leaves halfway through the match saying that Hangman is struggling to put away someone that Ospreay was quote-unquote easily able to take down at the highest level in his prime, at Kota's prime. After the match, Renee Paquette catches up to Ospreay before he leaves, and Ospreay says that if Hangman has a problem with anything he does or is, he's always willing to fight and to win because, well, Hangman was an unimportant fodder under the Bucks, under Kenny, and everyone else in his time before AEW, that he was just kind of this afterthought in AEW. Ospreay has always been at the top of his game, at the top of the card, wherever and whenever he is. Again, I do apologize if the show is a little bit in terms of writing, but yeah. However, Shelton Benjamin picks up a win over Daniel Garcia. I think it was last Collision, had MVP make a challenge for both Shelton and Bobby Lashley for Daniel Garcia's title, but no need because Shelton Benjamin just picks up the win. MVP did interfere in the match, of course. I have been very vocal about not liking Daniel Garcia. I'll find something for him to do eventually, I'm sure, but he's just never clicked for me. And I think I can do something a little bit interesting with Shelton as TNT champion specifically, as opposed to Lashley as that champion. As the match neared its end, MVP trips Daniel Garcia as he's attempting to bounce off of the rope for a tope, which allows Shelton to recover, get in the ring, quickly hit a move, and work towards the finish. The commentary complains that Garcia was screwed over. The Hurt Syndicate doesn't really seem to care as they get into the ring and celebrate with the new TNT champion. Garcia, after he recovers, does complain to the ref, but ref's like, alright, I didn't see it, so tough luck. MVP grabs the mic to do a mock interview with Shelton's like, you fought hard for this title, and you completely took the championship for yourself, by yourself. And, it's very over the top, it's very, almost corny to an extent, but, they know they're being corny about it. And Daniel Garcia butts in, and he's like, bro, you did, he's attempting to say, hey, you guys cheated, but MVP's, security, and that is, security, there's a fan interrupting the interview. Lashley storms over, full Nelson. After the interview is finished, MVP is like, you know what? Ricochet, the Acclaimed, anyone else who wants to see how someone like MVP can lead people like Shelton to championships, lead Bobby Lashley on the path towards being world champion. Anyone can come out and join as he celebrates with the prize pool. Just a big party for the new TNT champion, Shelton Benjamin. The show ends with the discarded Daniel Garcia in the ring in front of the celebrating Hurt Syndicate. 60 rated. 64. Again, I've never gotten into a rhythm with this series just yet, but I was starting to kind of, the wheels were turning as I got to the end of booking this episode. Hopefully I can eventually get to a point where I have enough, get enough on a roll of booking to start chunking away at being so far behind real world. But, well, that's stuff to figure out for the future.